Crystal Rift by John Hibbins and Nick Pittom is a dungeon crawler inspired by classic first-person RPGs. From screenshots, it appears reminiscent of Dreadhalls, but while it does employ a degree of horror, a number of aesthetic decisions make it much less terrifying to play, allowing for a more rational engagement with your environment and a greater focus on puzzles. One thing that you'll only really notice when playing the game in the Rift is the sense of scale is exaggerated to the point where things don't feel quite real, as if you're a floating head inside a toy dungeon. While Crystal Rift doesn't attempt to embody you in the experience, what's weird is that this doesn't feel nauseating, nor does it particularly diminish how absorbing the game is. This perspective shift makes for something that is visually quite enchanting, even though there is not much to stare in awe at. Everything has a good sense of depth and texture, but it also feels a bit cartoony at the same time. The ghostly apparitions that provide the occasional jump scare are cutesy enough to keep things from spilling over into wholesale horror. These scares themselves can be modified in the options menu to suit your own particular constitution. The upshot of all these decisions is that Crystal Rift manages to provoke measured scares without evoking the kind of blood-curdling terror that would make you want to stop playing. One feature of Crystal Rift that I think might split opinion is its gridded movement. The dungeon is constructed of squares or cubes, giving you 4 degrees of orthogonal movement between these squares, snapping to the grid as you move. Likewise, reorienting your view is handled by bumper buttons, which rotate you 90 degrees in a single motion. This comfort mode set of limited movement options does make for a more methodical experience. It is also presumably designed to minimise nausea, however, showing it to one VR newcomer, they reported finding it quite jarring, and I tend to agree. Crystal Rift makes a lot of smart design choices that allow it to ramp down the intensity of the experience, making it accessible whilst remaining atmospheric. The demo gives a good taste of the kinds of traversal and reasoning puzzles that the full game might include, and hits a good level of challenge. It is never obtuse, and key features of the rooms are always clearly readable, making for a steady, satisfying progression that leaves you wanting more. All in all, Crystal Rift is a promising game that seems to have been very carefully and lovingly crafted. Definitely a dungeon worth delving.